Chapter 5 I was running as fast as my little legs could carry me. Tiny drops of sweat were pouring down my face. I was breathing so hard. I thought my ant-sized lung would burst. Neff was running fast too. Pretty soon, she passed me. That wasn't surprising. I mean, she had 4 more legs than I did. I looked back. The cockroach was grinning on me. This was it. This was how I was going to die. Not of old age when I was 100, but eaten by a cockroach. My life couldn't end that way. It was too stupid. I looked back again. The cockroach was almost on top of me. Then, suddenly, I heard a whooshing noise. Something enormous hit the ground like an earthquake. At the same time, I heard a sickening crunching sound. A giant foot had come down on top of the cockroach. A giant foot in a giant white sneaker with red stripes on it. Roach guts squirted out all over. Some hit me. Ugh. Zack, are you all right? Called Neff. Yeah, that was a close one. Watch out you don't get stepped on yourself. I was pretty shaky. I didn't know where that giant foot had come from. Probably one of the guys in my class. Whoever it was had saved my life. But I'd probably never be able to thank him. It made me feel awful. I was still alive. But what good did it do me? I wanted my old life back. Up ahead of us, I saw something fuzzy and blue. It looked about 3 feet thick. I couldn't see how far it stretched, but it was huge. It looked about the size of a big lake. Then I realized what it was. It was the edge of one of the picnic blankets. We made it, Neff. We're at one of the picnic blankets. That jar of chocolate is very close by. We crept along the edge of the blanket. There was a lot of junk on it. A big brown leather baseball mitt, a big new baseball with giant red stitching, a gigantic green canvas backpack as tall as a building, and not far from the backpack, the plastic jar filled with chocolate-covered ants. Hooray! Resting against the jar was the plastic bag with the shrink-away packets, the cause of all my trouble. But I realized something. If we climbed to the top of the bag of shrink-away, I'd be able to get inside the jar. Wait a minute. Suddenly, I realized something else. The bag of shrink-away. My tiny brain had a big idea. A very big idea. Tell me, Neff, I said, what would happen if Queen Tut weren't so big? What do you mean? I mean, what if Queen Tut suddenly started shrinking? What if she shrank down to our size, or even smaller? Would anybody still take orders from her then? No, of course not. But nothing could ever make her shrink like that. Maybe there is something, I said. Do you see the stuff inside this bag? What? Listen, I shrank down to ant size because I ate a lot of this stuff. It's something called shrink away. What's shrink away? Diet powder. Very strong stuff. Very expensive. If we bring some back to the royal chamber and feed it to Queen Tut, then maybe she'd shrink too? And we will be rid of her. What do you think? It's worth a try. All we had to do now was get a few grains out of one of the packets and carry them back, along with some chocolate. Neff and I tried to scramble into the bag. It was sealed shut. I couldn't pull it open. What do we do now? I asked Neff. Instead of answering, she chewed a hole in the plastic, and we crawled inside. Cool. It was hot and sweaty inside the plastic bag. We were standing on a packet of Shrink Away. Without my asking, Neff chewed a hole in the side of the packet we were standing on. Be careful, Neff, I said. You chewed up a tiny bit of one of those grains. You will get so small, I won't even be able to see you. We lifted out a few grains of Shrink Away. They were spiky, white, and the size of soccer balls. As we stood looking at the grains, the ground began to shake. Uh-oh, said Neff. We'd better go. I carried the grains of shrink away outside and looked around. The shaking had stopped, and then I saw them, 2 gigantic feet. Attached to the feet were legs as tall as big round as the trees in Redwood National Forest. And above the legs, way above them, looming like a mountain in the clouds, was the biggest bird I had ever seen in my entire life. Suddenly, without warning, it started falling right toward us like an asteroid. We were about to be set on. Chapter 6. Falling butt! Falling butt! I screamed. I pushed Neff out of the way just in time. The giant tush missed us by inches. The wind from the landing blew us a couple of yards away. I held on to the Shrink Away with all my might. Phew, thanks, Zack, said Neff. You saved my life. That would have been a horrible way to die. Who the heck belonged to the behind that almost killed us? Who else but Vernon? I recognized his khaki shirts. I was so mad at him. I wasn't thinking straight. Without stopping to worry about danger, I ran right up and beat him. I heard a tremendous shout, like the trumpeting of an elephant. Then a giant hand slapped where I had bitten. He just missed me. Well, that was stupid, Neff scolded. You could have gotten killed. Come on, Zack. We'd better get back to the pyramids. Not so fast, Neff. We've got the Shrink Away, but we still need the chocolate. What we have to do is stick some chocolate on the Shrink Away to make her want to eat it. Then let's get the chocolate, said Neff. Now. And then I realized the problem. There was chocolate inside the jar, all right. Chocolate covering up dead ends. I said. Neff, this is something that I must do alone. Where I go, Neff, you must not follow. Why can't I help you? That is something I can never tell you, I said dramatically. I mean, how do you tell a friend that her people were the main ingredient in a desert? Climbing into the container of chocolate-covered ants was pretty grim. It was worse than I would have imagined. I guess that's what happens when you've become friends with an ant. I felt like puking again. I tried not to look at the dead ants buried in the chocolate. I broke off a large chunk of ant-free chocolate, and I climbed out of that container as fast as I could go. Working quickly, Neff and I broke the chocolate into tiny pieces and smooshed them on the grains of shrink away. Now, let's get out of here, I said. With both of us carrying the chocolate-covered shrink away, we took off for the pyramids. We had to trick Quintot into eating the shrink away. If my plan didn't work, then poor Neff and her family would be slave for life. So would I, for that matter.